This guy that is going to be featuring tonight has so many facets to him, one of which was his fool cap ceremony. This was done a while back, and a couple of his tortilla flat friends accompanied him on it. So I'm going to read the first of the trilogy of poems that I wrote about Peter. This one is called Buddhist Sheriff. It was more like a Sergio Leone trilogy where I wrote also The Return of Buddhist Sheriff and then finally Fistful of Karma. So this one was written for his 42nd birthday, which was a while back.
No.
A couple days ago.
42. Some say it's the answer to most questions about the universe. Others say it's just another day in the life of our main man. Oh, sure, there's time for assessment, time to figure out who to shoot and whether it's really worth it. Time to figure out where the next buck is coming from. Time to twist the dial on the airwaves until you find something the least bit in tune. Few of us remember the days when he was the Buddhist sheriff of this town. He'd walk tall down the street carrying heavy moral lumber, and no one wanted to face the wrong side of his ohm. That, of course, was before the bugs took over, or rather, before we noticed that they had. Like our man Darwin, he learned to adapt and to grow skilled and nimble when handling the short end of the stick. Now, the bugs envy him. They ask each other, how could he have survived with all that's happened? Surely, when we bugs have long expired, they say, he will remain, walking tall once again and carrying heavy moral lumber.
And now, Mr. Marc Olmstead is the penultimate pre-micer before our ultimate feature, Mr. Peter Marti. Let me just get this organized for you. Okay, you're ready to go.
All right.
All right, I'm going to focus in on you, though.
Okay.
Got some red eye going on there.
Well, it's of vampiric quality.
All right,
This is actually going to be an extended introduction to my good friend Peter Marti. So I want to say a few words about Peter because I actually have something written about him also because he inspires us like Neil Cassidy.
Okay, let me do something. I'm going to pause this then, and then that way I can do the official everything.
All right.
And now.
Wake me when it's over.
Yes, you are on.
Okay.
As they say.
First of all, I want to say that Peter is going to read it's a poem that I've asked him to read, but it's a long poem and takes us, not like an hour long, but like about 20 minutes long. And it's about the poet Gregory Corso and his relationship with Corso. And it's fantastic history. And so I just wanted to let you know in advance that it takes a little bit of concentration. So, in our soundbite Facebook, meme world, we don't tend to want to listen for that long, and it's a tough poem for him to read, is really what it amounts to. So I would really hope that everyone gives him a lot of energy for this poem, because it's one of the best things he's ever written. And so I look forward very much to him reading this particular poem, and I wanted to remember to say that. And in fact, we're talking about Peter Marti, who will be up after me. And in fact, of Peter Marti's poetry, Corso himself said, "Yeah, you made me see it. Good sound, good clear images." So that's what Corso himself said. And while we're at it, since we're doing that, many of you know who Jack Hirschman is. He said about an earlier book of Peter's, Bitter Smoke, Holy Words. Bitter smoke, holy words is good. You ain't scared of letting the self go on the page. You use the I with a certain confidence that suggests your I has its eye on the world as you, Jack Hirschman. So, without further ado, so I started thinking about, this has a whole quality of nostalgia, which you're picking up on. And we've been through a gazillion things since Birthstone, but I realized even as I was looking for stuff to read, and then I came across something, and I said, well, what would amuse Peter? Because of course it's Peter's night, and I found something that I thought would amuse him, because I realized that I had written about him quite extensively. In fact, would you hold up your door prize, Stefan? Just hold that up. Peter figures very heavily. This is the only book I have in print called Don't Hesitate. That's all you have to do. Put it down now, please. Thank you. He's my Vanna White.
Thank you so much.
So, if you are interested, it's about the history of beat poets in San Francisco, the punk scene, and the Buddhism that Peter and I were involved in, so which actually is in the forefront in our lives or in the back. But he has a lot in there as Peter Marti. So if it's something that interests you, I am on Facebook, and you'll know it's me because there are other says because there's a William Burroughs tattoo as my profile, M-E-R-C. I will friend you back. Without further ado, we've had so many, we've known each other almost 50 years, and so we've had so many different sections of our lives, some of them quite ghastly, that I found a section where we were doing pretty well, and in 1989, that was part of a novel at the time that I was writing, in which I refer to him as Lou Ansley instead of Peter Marti. So he's going to be Lou Ansley in this. And I also remembered out in the strangeness of the whole thing, that at that time I was living now I live in Portland, Oregon. I was living just a few blocks away at that Buddhist Center KDK on Fell Street. And Libby Looning, who we all know, was working in this cafe, who would, guess what, she would feed me for free. But at any rate, so this history, just you can't get away from it. And of course this Birthstone thing was very important to all of us, and it's quite wonderful that we're reuniting all of that. I'll get to the reading, and then I will introduce the great and marvelous Peter Marti. So, Wilbur Hot Springs Red House, an artist's colony in the winter of North Californian leather yellow grass. Lou Ansley, my poet friend, entering the kitchen in black beret, 1989. A re-scrambling of half-centuries codes, punk, hippie, beat, Buddhist, myself, also all of these. The plump witch with red lipstick, more proof of the oracular, dancing, cannibal goddess that is my muse and constantly manifesting. A goofy kitten also entering the room. My mood shifting with the difficulties of sober mind in an alcoholic's body. I prepare for more coffee and meditation practice. Lou kept getting in trouble for smoking cigarettes. You weren't supposed to smoke at Wilbur, anywhere. He was swiftly tagged the overgrown bad boy. My tromping around in black motorcycle jacket also seemed to unnerve the rich Marin crowd. That was an agreement, it's very cosmic. Since 1975, Lou and I had read poetry together, sold coke together, sold candles out of a van, and finally drank and drugged ourselves into enemies. In my own final months of drinking, 1985, I had attended his wedding, a weird affair presided over by both a priest and a member of a Crowley magical lodge, which Lou and his wife did not belong to. Held at the San Francisco Art Institute, where neither Lou nor his wife were enrolled. His wife didn't like me. I was a bad influence. Now I learned 3 years later Lou's wife had left him because of his drinking and drugging, and he had also joined 12-step. Now Lou found it difficult to be alone, and here in early sobriety, he was bouncing off the wall. There was Raquel gliding across the public pool, sleek as a seal, newly pregnant with another man's baby. There was the sister of the bass player of his last band. Brief, a couple of fucks. He grew tired or she withdrew or both. There was Kim, divorcee, a coke dealer boyfriend she was deciding to get rid of and interviewing prospective candidates for new paramour before cutting the guy loose. She strung Lou along for months, never dumped the coke dealer. Lou came in 5 minutes. He spent an exhaustive amount of time trying to fuck her. Finally seduced her, came in 5 minutes, and began laughing at the absurdity and tension of it all. She never gave him another chance. Finally, there was Linda, who considered herself a stone alcoholic. He met her when she was drunk at a picnic, and she later passed out that very evening. Linda thought it would be nice to take ecstasy with him. In this case especially, it should be obvious Lou was walking a thin line as far as keeping himself clean and sober. Lou did not always show the most conservative approach in these areas. For instance, I strongly suggested that he stop tasting the wine and spitting it out to check its vintage at its waiter's job. He would call me up on my answering machine and leave bizarre messages of great length. I liked these messages. It was as if Lou were some journalist in Saigon leaving his last thoughts before the whole fucking hotel gets shelled. So, it shows you what an alcoholic I was, but clearing throat. But that sense of fear cannot be in my decisions, you know? I mean, I have to acknowledge it. Say I'm afraid to be alone, and afraid to get older without family. Lou didn't own an answering machine, so I had to write my expiations, like these. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Peter Marti.
Peter Marti! As we like to say in France,
Wow. I think you showed that to me some time ago, but oh my God.
you never thought he would,
Oh.
not too much information, actually.
We're both happily married now, thank you.
Well, there you go.